Murtazaliev shocked everyone by beating Tszyu in his last fight, and Terence Crawford is ready to get back at him.
Кроуфорд, будет это Фундора, Спенс, не имеет никакого значения. Приоритет это пояса, если нету пояса.
Fans want to know if Terence Crawford wants to fight Murtazaliev again for the IBF Junior Middleweight Championship in a crossover match after beating Tszyu badly in the third round. Crawford just beat Israel Madrimov to win the WBA PB title, and now he wants to fight for the WBC and WBO belts. Fundora's fight with Darrell Spence was called off because the WBO let Fundora protect himself against Spence on his own. Keith Thurman asked Terence Crawford if he would like to fight Bakhram Murtazaliev for the IBF Junior Middleweight title. Crawford said there was no proof that Murtazaliev would avoid him again. He is on my excellent because he has a title. Since he has a title, he can easily keep himself busy by fighting people in Therungs, with the ABBF fan leading the way. This will help him get more fans and show what he brings to the division. But does Bud need Bakhram Murtazaliev? Should Bud fight? Thurman says that Terence Crawford is likely to avoid Bakhram, a strong opponent, after his surprising win over Tszyu, while Murtazaliev is determined to protect his IBF International Boxing Federation title. Crawford might be scared to face such a strong opponent at this time. Thurman says Morales' recent performance has created a lot of excitement to end the division, but it also puts pressure on the top fighters to carefully think about their next moves. Keith also said that the person who really wants it and accepts it and says, "That's my next opponent," does Bam stay in his IBF lane, protecting his title? By saying he has to stay in his lane until another door opens up to do another great fight 10 in this division in the world of boxing. But
what did I get hit with? Couldn't regroup, and I don't know, man.
Murtazaliev used a left hook during an exchange in round 2 to knock out Tszyu, who used to be the WBA PR champion. The 38-year-old CH never recovered from that shot. He threw away any chance of coming back by going on the attack and trying to slug it out with Morales. When he talked about what happened, he said he got hit with a punch and couldn't get up. He kept trying to get up, but it wasn't working, and Tin asked him what happened and what he was hit with. "I need to get back on track, but I'm not sure how. It doesn't go your way, and you have to bounce back. I was positive after Fundora, but I got to find some answers after this. It didn't go to scripted. I felt unbelievable. He showed me he was the better man on the night we lived and learned." Tszyu hoped to recover from his split decision loss to Sebastian Fundora in March, but faced a harsh reality against Murtazaliev, who dominated from the start. Murtazaliev knocked you down 3 times in the second round, leaving the Australian barely able to make it to the bell and needing a check from the doctor before being allowed to continue. It wasn't long before Tszyu hit the canvas again, and with the ref warning, he would stop the fight after one more knockdown. Corner moved to prevent that from happening. Tim definitely underestimated Bam's power and paid the price. However, Tim praised his opponent, saying, "Congratulations to my opponent for the tremendous performance, yet we move on and regroup, and my team will be back again. I will be back. I'll still be in Big F soon, and I have got to find plenty of answers for myself. Of course it will be very difficult for Tszyu to rebuild himself after the latest defeat because many of the top fighters in the 4 PB class will expose his flaws in the fight, even the younger fighters like you from Taz would take advantage of what Murtazaliev has exposed."
Me, from a young age, never give up. And if you shoot for the stars and you crash and burn on the way, just keep going. And I'm gonna keep going and keep reaching for them stars. Thank you all.
Tim, you didn't pay much attention to Morozov. You were focused on other fighters, says Terence Crawford. His goal was to meet Crawford, who holds the WBA pound belt, and says Mura was just as strong as Tszyu, who used to hold the WBO title. Crawford said, "Tim thought he had an easy one. Took this dude lightly and was worried about other fighters. Tim thought she had already won a fight before he went inside the ring with Bakhram for the fight. Tim was already looking into the future, planning on fighting bigger stars like Ison and Errol Spence and thinking of Bam as a stepping stone. Tim told me this ahead of the fight. I'm leaning more towards Portfender beating Spence due to activity and height. I'm not sure. Styles lead to fights, and that one would be a real show. I believe Crawford did a great job against Israel. Many critics will always say that Matthew isn't a bum. What these people don't understand is that this clearly shows that Tim's attitude about this fight wasn't the best. Underestimating a champion like Bakhram, who has an amazing knockout ratio, isn't the smartest thing to do, and Tim had to pay for it. Before the fight, Shawn Porter talked about how competitive the pound division is, calling it the toughest division in boxing right now. Porter stressed that the high level of skill in this class makes things tough for any contender. Porter brought up Tszyu's position as a top player and the importance of her upcoming match against Alf, who has come back from retirement.
Landscape at 154. Where's Tszyu sit in there?
It's becoming the hottest division right now. 135 is still really high. We've got some of the lighter weights. 26 is really hot. 68, 75. We've got some hot divisions right now. I feel like 154 might be the most competitive division in boxing right now. And I think Tim is still, even with the loss that he got to Fundora, we saw how the fight unfolded, why it unfolded, or possibly why it unfolded the way that it did. Tim's been in the top 3 at 154. I think 2023. I think that was the first time I come over there to Australia, ever since I've seen Tim.
But now that the fight is over, Porter thinks she came into it with a cocky attitude, which is why he left so quickly. Porter told them not to fight fire with fire, because that's not how he does things. I get that, but I think that turning and moving was the right thing to do. When it comes to getting back into the World Cup running, I don't know when you were at the top, but you're getting closer. A lot of people had already said that you were the winner. Daniel Bates had a lot of faith in you, but he knew the fight would be hard. It looks like this will be a close call from the middle of the fight until the end of the bell. Not because I don't think she will win, I'm sure Tszyu will win, but because I want her to make it to the finals. I think Tszyu chose the play for me in this one. Puli Malignaggi highlighted the importance of the fight, noting that despite the differences in profiles between Tszyu and Alf, the winner will greatly raise their standing in the competitive pound division. It's not a walkover, even though one may be more well-known than the other, and one may have a bigger profile than the other, but it's a fight where the winner certainly raises their profile tremendously. If it's true he's back in the wine column and back in the mix, and if it's Mora, you know what now? You've got a different player in the PB division, a weight class that is already rather full of talent. Boxing Anil Gev pointed out the hurdles the two would face in the ring. He noted, I can see after the last fight she's more hungrier. Goal of assessment emphasized Tszyu's heightened determination following his defeat to Sebastian Fender, suggesting that this matchup might show a more driven and focused version of Tszyu. He added, listen, it's not an easy opponent. The way to take him is to study his history and rewatch his fights. The dangerous thing about him is that he is very tough and dangerous. He looks hurt, and that's where the party is always held heavy. Shans Nick Tszyu, Tim Zarafa's younger brother, made a bold guess about Bakhram Murtazaliev. Ali's hardness. He said that he looks like he has a hard head. He has a very thick skull, so Tim needs to start making holes in that skull and learning how to sponge walls. Bam's way of fighting makes him easy to hit, Nikita said. He thought that Tim would be able to break Bam down and stop him in the later rounds of the fight.
He's got a style that's pretty easy to hit. He comes forward a lot. I think Tim will kind of just break him down throughout the rounds, and I see just see him breaking him down over the end throughout the course of the fight and possibly stopping him by the end.
Tim didn't have this luck, though, because Bakhram stopped him from starting his offense. Chris Algie warned against underestimating Murtazaliev, highlighting the fighter's skill set despite his lack of mainstream fame, stating, I don't know how much this would be a huge upset. Murtazaliev is actually a very good boxer. He's got a very good right hand, he's basic, he's physically strong, and he's big and tall for the weight class. This is not an easy fight for Tszyu by any means, just because we haven't heard of him or the fighting public hasn't heard of him. Tszyu has his hands full because Mura as all can fight. Teeter Bottle said that Tim would face immense pressure considering that a loss now would put a halt to his promising future. He said Tszyu is the rival in this fight and he needs to bring the goats a loss here, for it is not career-ending, but it's catastrophic and seriously damaging to his image if he loses 2 in a row. Tin comes into this fight with that load of pressure and expectation. The battle highlighted the high stakes for Tszyu, emphasizing that a win was crucial following his earlier defeat. He turned away from Murtazaliev and recognized the potential danger he posed, stating that Murtazaliev, given his evil nature and unknown status, might simply go out there and toss the bombs he throws into battle. Warren said that her impressive record and the desperation that comes with being underestimated make her a significant threat, capable of delivering powerful punches even in the later rounds. A desperate man is a dangerous man. And I think Mural, while underestimated, has a top-to-toe record with knockouts that shows he's got the power and can transfer that power to the later rounds, as he did against Ko in his last fight when he knocked him out in the TH round battle stat.
Back-to-back losses in the fight game can be really hurtful. So particularly for a guy like Tim who wants to be the king of the 154 division, maybe ratings-wise to a lot of people he is, but in terms of belts he's not. So this is where Tim needs to make a statement in this fight and then over the next 12 months to become potentially a unified champion at super welterweight.
Many people didn't take Bam seriously, so it's not surprising that he won the fight. After the fight, Bottle said, "I think you were a little bit cocky early. He was careful at first, and then in the third or fourth round, he started to apply the pressure. But in this fight, he tried to almost bang early. This was a terrible loss for Tszyu." Ben Damon told Tim that Tim was chewed down for times, and Batcher Alv kept his sword title in a one-sided beatdown. Keith Thurman talked about Tim's skills, pointing out that Bakhram and his trainer said Tszyu was a typical opponent made from AA. Thurman said that they were able to make their point in the fight.
I mean, look what the left hook did, man. You know, I was obviously confident when I signed the contract. I said there's nothing special in what Tszyu brings to the table. Earlier this week, because I was on the analytical side earlier this week, I got to interview all the fighters. And, you know, Bakhram clearly said that him and his trainer said that there's nothing special about Tszyu and that Tszyu is just cookie cutter made for Bakhram. And not only were they able to say that, but they were able to prove it, you know.
Thurman, a member of Premier Boxing Champions broadcast team, provided a detailed analysis of Tim Zera's performance in his recent fight against Bakhram Murtazaliev, pointing out that Chal appeared unable to make necessary adjustments after being early in the match rather than adapting his strategy. Tszyu continued to fight in a manner that eventually contributed to his defeat, as he was knocked down for times during the contest. Thurman emphasized that the Murtazaliev team had adequately prepared for Tszyu, identifying his weaknesses and devising a game plan to effectively exploit them. He observed that Murtazaliev's effectiveness with his left hook was a clear indicator of this preparation. Thurman highlighted that Bam had previously claimed there was nothing special about Tszyu, and during the fight, he showed that assertion to be true by dominating the former WBO pound champion. He further added, "Look what the left hook did." Bam clearly said that there's nothing special about Tszyu and that he's a bread cutter made for Bakhram. Not only were they able to say that, but they were also able to prove it by rushing back into the fight, which finally led to his downfall. Thurman's comments point out a big flaw in Zera's strategy by suggesting that he should have used his jet to slow down. Keith said that you can't keep doing the same thing. He was hurt, but he tried to get back into the fight right away, instead of giving himself some time and working strategically behind Jod to slow down the pace. It was almost like we could see Tim shaking on the ground. It was almost like we could see reverb from the punch as an outsider. Every part of his body is telling him to stop. Thurman talked about how to spike while he was wobbly on his feet. Thurman sees Zeus's overconfidence as a sign that he was about to sink. He stood back up, and just before his managers gave up, he was on Bomb's legs and couldn't stand up. He still had the G to throw an overhand right, showing that he wasn't that scary or dangerous. The year he came over here and tried to show that when you go from a small pool to a big pool, you run into some big fish. Caleb's plan took into account how unpredictable boxing is, mentioning the many highs and lows of the sport. He knew that both fighters were great athletes and expected a tough fight, being sure that they would face many challenges in the ring.
Boxing, a lot of highs and lows, so.
Yeah, for sure. Crazy, right, Caleb? I don't think anybody gave Murtazaliev a win by knockout.
I mean, maybe not that fast and that early. So,
Yeah,
but both are great fighters. So I knew it was going to be a tough fight.
no doubt.
It's going to be really hard for Tszyu to come back without his promoter matching him against weaker competition. How long that would take is unknown. It might require that Tszyu spend all of us fighting lesser guys who can't punch and will fold. Under his power, he should also consider getting a new trainer that works on developing his boxing skills if we're putting him backside with someone good. It's important that you take a step back against a lower-level opponent for his next fight, rather than continuing to face talented tops 5 level competition like he's done in his last 2 fights. His losses against Morali and Sebastian Fandora showed that he's not ready to mix it with the best fighters in the pound division. Tszyu is. But he's been fighting a lot of older guys and weak competition to build his record. He's going to have to retool his game, man. Focus on fighting a bottom-tier fighter to work on becoming more of a boxer, so that he doesn't continue to slows right. Now a fight with fellow Australian boxer El Zarifa is the best choice for Tim Zarifa. Also chimed into this Madarin, had a dig at CH by saying that he's nothing like his father. Sarapa expresses strong views about Sarah's performance and his public persona, which she thinks has been living off height and hasn't proven himself as a fighter. This sentiment represents the doubts that some fans and fighters have about Tszyu's abilities compared to his father's legacy. Zarapa said, "I can tell you exactly what happened. Tszyu has been found outside. Been saying for a long time the guy isn't who everyone thinks he is, but Tszyu has a great hype team around him, and he believed it. He believed his own hype, and she got found out, as you can see. Now he's nothing like his father. He came into this fight saying he was going to face Canelo. Tim was fighting a real world champion, and he overlooked him." Sarapa revealed that there were already discussions about this fight, suggesting that both fighters have a lot of stakes going forward. He further added, "My phone, it's been blowing up. People haven't stopped calling behind the scenes. There was already talk that if I won against Nikita, then I got Tim, but there was also talk that if Tim got beat by more, I went straight to him. So our fight has to happen now. It will happen too." Sklash was determined to show that he still belonged among boxing's elite. To defeat against Furrow was a tough pill to swallow, especially given the conditions that surrounded it. Tszyu got a bad cut from an elbow that he didn't mean to give in the second round, which made him perform much worse.
Cut happened, and may have been the left elbow of Sebastian Fandora.
They didn't have it on my monitor. I looked
Right here, take a look.
Let's see.
Leans in, watch the left elbow. There it is. The left elbow, the forearm of Fandora.
Yeah, basically,
Even though it hurt, he fought through it and showed a lot of heart and toughness, but he lost by a split decision. Before his fight with Mures, all of Tszyu thought back on his loss to Fandora and admitted that it had been hard. He said, "I learned a lot that night. It wasn't just about the loss. It was about how I handled adversity. Fighting with a cut like that, I had to dig deep. It showed me what I was capable of."